The exhibition N=12 is about taking 12 artists and putting them in this sort of intentionally focused co-creative environment, constant communication, sharing code, sharing functions, sharing artwork, works in progress.
Yeah, was just really excited at the prospect of like co-creating art with a bunch of strangers on the internet who like shared my same super niche interests.
We were talking to each other, and we were also sharing code snippets, and we were giving each other feedback and everything, but we also communicate to each other kind of through our art.
When larger groups of people get distilled down, you lose diversity. But I actually think the opposite happened here.
Sometimes you would have these groups talking about something very intensely, and then that conversation was done, and sometimes you were part of that, sometimes you weren't.
This question about what is yours and what is part of the group, this group and exhibition that we're all part of, that it makes explicit that work is often not made in isolation.
We started with the idea we want to do an exposition as the Gen Art Club, and then we voted on the categories, and in the end collaboration won.
You can kind of have sort of these blindfolds on. It's like this is what I'm going for, and then somebody else telling you, no, actually you should investigate this more. It's like, oh yeah, you're right.
I found that in the group it was really useful to know when to stop on something, which was kind of sort of a new experience.
I made grain textures too, and then I asked which should I use for this. So yeah, everyone choose for watercolor texture.
And I feel like that's like something, if I were just like working in isolation, I would just be like, these look scary, I'm not gonna have these in my output, and just like throw it aside. But it was really cool to have a couple people be like, there's something here, you should like keep these.
I got a lot of great feedback from the group as well. I think it was ippsketch who suggested using 2 different palettes for both the balls and the walls.
When Nicole brought her title, I was just literally blown away. How could a title be so good, like so perfectly matches the artwork, but touches you and your experience in life?
And it actually ended up being a bit of a bug that caused this. And then I was able to achieve, kind of what Dan was saying, where there's light shining through the skinnier parts of the strands. And now that's actually my favorite part of every single piece is that light shining through from the background.
Suddenly it all turned very messy. And I was like, this is not what I want it to be. And then Melissa replied almost immediately, no, this one's awesome. You should go down this route. And now it's a big part of my project, and I love it.
What was hard for me with this was the idea of like letting people down. This is a group show. It's like my work is one of 12. If collectors see this and it's like, oh, 11 of these things are great, but this one guy, what's up with this one?
For me, it was that same kind of accountability or desire to do it perfectly, to do right by all of you. I see each of you now as friends, and I don't want to let you down.
Many artists, generative artists, create their own work independently, but actually we are create based on the collective intelligence of the internet.
This kind of artwork being created on these networked machines, which attach you to the whole world, it's such a universal experience, and you're finding people across the world that resonate on exactly the right wavelength. It's phenomenal to me that that's even possible.
This is where I got a lot of help from the group. I think Peter had a lot of good suggestions about how to do color transitions, and Bart Simons was the one who said, you don't have to do full black and white. What if you just have some splashes of color in there still?
And that's really just what brings it into another level, that you're not in your usual alone bubble, but now there's like 11 other people in your bubble. That really just makes the work much better than if it was just you alone.
Having this group to be able to share that with and not feel like I'm alone all the time has been really, really good, even for my mental health.
But because this is a group show and we're all together, you kind of have the protection of not being the center of attention. You still have 11 other people. And that's when I came to this last one, was the sudden realization that I could try something different, and I can try to push in a different direction that isn't my typical style, but is something that I have lived with for a long time and I really love.
The whole process really pushed me to grow as an artist, in a sense, to just being okay with sharing early on and being open to ideas and suggestions from others.
When I saw Jeff having permission within himself to simplify and go more minimal, it made me feel like I had permission to maybe do the same thing, which I normally would never do.
It's super important, obviously, to protect yourself and do your own thing, but also like to invite other folks into that. You have to have a certain attitude and a certain approach to it. And every one of the artists did that.
So I very much did try to steal everybody's work for my own in the early stages. But initially, I just took everybody's work in progress, and then I just fed it into my code, so I had something to work with.
I see it as one big collection instead of maybe separate works still, because there's just so much that we will learn from each other.
I've formed relationships with these artists in particular in a way that I don't have with most other generative artists.
For me, this is the first time to collaborate with international artists. This is a very special and unique experience for me.
This is my first collaboration, and it like giving the feedbacks and taking the feedback and implement it. It's very supporting environment.
I think it was such a privilege throughout the show to get this peek, this kind of like intimate look into people's creative process.
But yeah, I'm like planning on poking all of you with like random questions for like, I don't know, the coming years.
Yeah, I don't want the Discord server to go away. I want that little place. I hope that little place stays after the show is done.
I really enjoyed it, though. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Actually, right now, you'd have to. It'd be a struggle to do it again. If you asked me in 2 weeks, I would say, yeah, I would do it again in a heartbeat.